I can't believe this video is finally happening because I've been procrastinating this since forever, which is so ironic. Welcome back. It's been a while since I've done one of these face-to-face chatty videos. So let's get into it. And I basically had this idea for a series where I basically ask you guys, particularly teens, about your opinions on certain issues or certain and topics of discussion. Basically, my channel is not only about me showing my face, talking about food and the occasional studying, because I thought I'm an activist and I love talking about important world issues, important issues in people's lives. And I thought this could be the series where I basically do that. And I already have talked about sustainability and education on my channel before. So this time I thought I'd talk about mental health. And in this series, instead of me always talking to you guys about stuff, I thought I could take your opinions and people's different perspectives, and then we read that out and discuss it. So this format is kind of inspired from Murphy Napier's Dear Author series. She's a booktuber, and yeah, that was the inspiration for this. And so I basically asked you guys on Instagram. Well, not you guys, because I'm not sure if you guys even know I have an Instagram, but basically I just asked people on Instagram and asked teens in my life in general what are some things that they wish that people knew about, particularly regarding mental health. And obviously, as the series progresses, I'll be choosing different topics and different issues. So, any issue basically that I think would be interesting to talk about, and especially something that's stigmatized or, you know, has multiple different perspectives to it. So, yeah, and before we get into the opinions, just one thing. This is particularly in context of Indian society, because I think there's a huge generation gap between the current younger generation and the generation who is in charge of society, that is like, the adults. And there are different, very different perspectives, and I hope that this could be kind of like a means of communication between the two generations, and that's very large scale and in the clouds, but you get my point. And was that all that I had to say? Yep, that's all that I had to say. So we are getting to the opinions. So obviously, my Instagram isn't the most popular thing in the world. Like 3 people saw my story, so those 3 people gave me really good opinions, though. So that's great. So first opinion, that we get tired, that we get exhausted sometimes, and need a break even if we look fine. And that is so true, because one, I'm going to talk about the first. I'm going to talk about the if we look fine part. Um, or exhaustion or mental exhaustion doesn't always show up. Mental illness doesn't always show up, and you can't judge how a person is feeling based on their physical appearance. Some people are just really good at hiding it. Some people may be much more outward, but it's different for each person, and you cannot judge a person by how they look. So if somebody looks fine and happy, that does not necessarily mean they are fine and happy. And yeah, we can't judge. And I know we've all been taught about how we're not supposed to judge a person based off their looks and judge people books. That same old quote. But we tend to do that. We still tend to do that, and especially regarding mental health. And now the part about getting exhausted, that is again so true, because there's a certain pressure by society to constantly working towards certain goals, or just sometimes individual pressures that we put on ourselves. And for students particularly, there is obviously always the academic pressure. For after student life, there's the professional pressure, and there's always some sort of pressure. And obviously, everybody needs a break, and everybody needs time off, and just time off to relax. And even though we have holidays and stuff, that just sometimes doesn't happen because people don't realize that sometimes people just need a break. My point being that if somebody wants to take, a day off for themselves, encourage them to do that, and don't burden them on that day. Just let them chill, basically. And yeah, my next opinion. I can't just snap out of it, or shake it off. Depression physically stops me from doing stuff. There's a certain stigma around mental health, and there's a certain it's all in your head. It's all made up. It's just, if you just think differently, if you think positively, then it'll all go away. It does not work like that. Depression isn't only about sadness. It's just about sometimes just not feeling anything, and it's very difficult, and it's very difficult for people who have depression. And by telling them to just snap out of it, or to just forget about it, or to just shake it off, that's really harmful. And depression at times can really be hampering in your daily life, and it can prevent you from completing stuff, from doing stuff that you want to do and that you love to do, but you just can't do it. And that people need to understand that it is a major issue. I'm not going to get deep into depression and deep into awareness about depression, but I will leave a lot of resources down below for you to just understand people with depression better and understand depression better. Three, mental illness can impact everyone, and societal thoughts don't have an age. And again, there is a certain premonition and certain myth that mental illness can only affect people who are older, or sometimes of only a particular age group, which again does not make sense at all, because most mental illnesses start from the time when people begin to mature, and obviously it can start before that as well. But that's weird. That's that, and for a lifetime, anybody can have a mental illness, and anybody can feel depressed, anybody can have any sort of mental health struggle. And it is time that we stop having that premonition, or saying that you can't have a mental health struggle because you are too young for it. You are perfectly privileged, and you don't have any stress in life, which that myth is so annoying, and so there's so many issues with it. But mental health and stress and anything of that sort is not for a particular age range. It can impact anybody. Mental health struggles, I mean, and mental health struggles can impact anybody. And while we're talking about privileges, while I understand that it's important to accept privileges, and it is very important to accept privileges and to educate yourself about the privileges that you have, so that you can communicate with other people better, so that you can make the world a better place for everybody. My point being, you you can't not have mental illness if you are privileged, and privilege has nothing to do with mental illness. Mental illness can happen to absolutely anybody in any with any privilege, basically. And and we need to stop saying that you are privileged, so you don't have the right to seek out for help for mental illness, and that needs to go. And there's also a lot of internal doubt when you have a mental illness, because you're constantly thinking about the fact that you are so much more privileged than so many more people, and yet you're cribbing, and that is so wrong. We need to reach out. You need to reach out for help when you are struggling with something, and that's all right. No matter your privileges, no matter the fact that you are probably living your life comfortably, and on the outside, on the exterior, your life is perfect. It does not matter in the end, because things like mental illness happen to anybody. And regarding this entire thing, one thing that I really do not understand, why people do not understand, is that mental illness is just not in your head, or not made up, or not. It's not always caused by actual factors, and there's not always an actual reason. Because guess what, people? Almost all of my mental health struggles have some biological and physiological reasons for it, and physiological changes cause mental health struggles and a lot of times. And so it is actually there, and it's not always because of a particular reason. There's not always a reason why a person could be depressed, for instance. It just sometimes is the brain. Moving on. One person sent me a huge DM filled with different points. So thank you so much to that person. So first, fulfilling their dreams through their children and guilt tripping them to do so isn't love. I think this issue is very much relevant at all times, even though Bollywood has made a lot of depictions of this. But sometimes parents try to imprint their values or their dreams or their goals onto their children, and sometimes that can really change their children's worldview and also cause their children to struggle with mental health and their own identity. So every child and everybody should be raised in a way that allows them to pursue their goals and their own individuality. And guilt tripping is always a bad thing. Alright, all career options are valid. Bollywood's done that already, but just gonna say that every career is equally as beneficial for society and equally as beneficial for people. And there's and we need to get rid of the stigma around certain careers. And the arts, for instance, are very much valid. Two, the very fact that mental illness is a real thing. It's not some myth or rumor running around. Back to the point about the physiological aspects. The idea of disciplining children needs change and renovation. I think communication is the only way that things can work. And communication obviously is difficult and it takes time. And that's what I'm trying to do with this video. But communication is the way to go, people. Good communication is a skill that we need to learn. And back to my education system video, that communication is a skill that we should be taught better, because I literally did not know how to communicate, but thought better. But yeah, communication. Fine. So also, originally my idea was regarding particularly directed at Indian adults and Indian parents, and things that teens wished their parents would know. So that's why some of these things are more directed towards parents. So the fifth one is, this isn't to get back at them or anything. They're humans too, and before anything, they have been where we are, and because they were most probably mistreated back, then they don't realize they're hurting us or invalidating something. I just want them to understand our true intentions. So yeah, it's all about communication again, and there needs to be better communication between the generations. And communication. Mental health doesn't get better overnight, and that is again an important point, because it doesn't get overnight. It doesn't just get over by you saying that, okay, great, life is all unicorns again. Ta-da! Mental health issue cured. That's not how it works, and we did not need that unnecessary dramatization. But you get my point. That's not how it works, and that's just not how it works. There's nothing to discuss about it. Okay, and this last question, this last opinion is a bit unique. I did not know what to think of it, but no judgment right now. That writing or reading about stuff that's not necessarily happy all the time isn't a sign of mental illness, and it's not the same as being pessimistic, hence need not be attacked. So, well, I usually tend to gravitate towards sad media when I'm sad, so I don't know. But yeah, now that I think about it, just because you're reading or watching sad media, that does not always mean that you are sad. So yeah, sad media, this is a completely different topic altogether, I think. But analyzing or watching or consuming sad media can also be an analysis of human nature and human study, and study of human nature. And that does not always mean that you are sad yourself, but by experiencing another's sadness, you are understanding human nature better. So it's not always that you are sad. Right, that was the final opinion, I believe. Yep, that was the final opinion. So, thank you so much for being here. And I really hope to continue the series, and I hope the series doesn't flop because, again, we need better communication between the generations. And I don't mind making a part two of this because I did get very few responses for the first one, for this part, I mean. And mental health is just such a complex topic, and it's such a broad place, and there are so many people with so many different perspectives and opinions. And yeah, so I hope to make a part two of this, and I also hope to continue onward with the series regarding different topics, and just random topics that teens need to speak out about. So thinking along the lines of climate change, anything, I don't know. If you have any ideas, then feel free to drop it down below. And thanks for being here. Tell me about your thoughts on mental illness below, and I'll include them in my next part to this video. So yeah, thanks for being here. That's what I've been saying for the past 5 minutes. And why am I so bad at outros? Why am I so bad at outros?